No time for drama, we got a message we're letting out. You won't see how the Father, we gonna show you how. Let go of all the things that's holding you down. So just believe there ain't nothing getting in your way. Don't get caught up on the little things that people say. Just let it roll off your back and go about your day. Now all my people come and gather around here.
This is not an event. This is an effort that's a partnership. This is not a program, it's a strategy. One-third started before we got here. It's the preparation. One-third is the presentation. And then another third, the post-event time, where they just start doing follow-up. This is not a skater kid event, although skater kids will come. This is not a hardcore kids event, although they will come. This is not a music event. It's not a music festival, although people that expect that kind of stuff and like it, they're gonna come. This is a mainstream show. This is for something for everybody, all ages. We target teenagers, but you know what? All people come.
Red's my favorite color. Black and white has never been my thing. I'll take my drink lukewarm now. Hot and cold is not the thing for me. Absolutes are hidden. I buried my convictions. I cannot be blind anymore. Numb to what I'm living for. Gray's my favorite color.
There's only one way to escape. There's only one freedom. It's Jesus. Here's why I can say it's Jesus. Jesus Christ was fully man, and at the same time, he was fully God. He was the Son of God, and he hung on the cross, and he bled. As the Son of God, he hung on the cross, and he bled until he died. Then they took Jesus' dead body and put it into a tomb. 3 days later, he came back to life, and because of that, that proves he has the power over sin and the power over death. And if we give our lives to that Jesus, if he speaks to us, if we surrender to him, that Jesus, he will take away the chains of sin. He will rescue us from the grave, the coffin, and he will give us life. He will give us freedom. That's what the freedom experience is all about.
The Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. The Lord is my helper.
You see these kids and you see them walk down and you see the impact that was made on their lives that night, but then to hear about it later, it's, you know that you've made an impact in this, and you know that their lives have been touched.
You are our strong tower when we are.
We had a guy that called us up almost a year later saying, you know what, I just baptized a kid this week, and when I was baptizing him, I asked him, because I couldn't remember, I was like, you know, how did you come to know Christ? When was the time that you put your faith in Christ? And he said it was at the Freedom Experience. It was during the invitation that I stood up and gave my life to Christ.
Almighty
Freedom Experience came about just over the years. I started working with Brock in '99, and he began talking about doing an outreach that would be more effective way back then. And we started talking about it because we were doing outreaches all over the country, and some of the outreaches we'd go and do would be really, really effective, and we'd see unchurched people come to know Christ. But then we'd do a lot of other outreaches that were ineffective. And we realized that, hey, there's a difference. What some of these churches were doing was great, and then what some of these churches were doing was totally ineffective. And so we put together a strategy and actually wrote it down and put it in a handbook. We took all the things that were working and put them together to make the Freedom Experience.
Some people try to give me suggestions like, hey, why don't we hire Third Day to come in, and that'll draw a big crowd, and then we'll do an outreach. And my point that I make with that is that that's an in-reach, because third day is going to reach a bunch of churched people. That would be an in-reach. We bring in people that it doesn't matter if they have a big name in the Christian world, because what we're trying to do is reach those who don't go to church.
In my 13 years of ministry, I've never been a part of an event anything remotely like this. The thing I love about Freedom Experience is that it is focused on reaching the lost. The focus is, and it's good to have events that are focused on building up the church, but this, even more than building up the church, is building up God's kingdom, centering its mission, its purpose on the lost.
I mean, our major purpose is to reach the unchurched, to try to reach people that local churches are not able to reach on their own. These are the kids and the families that are not setting foot into a church on Sunday morning for whatever reason.
Freedom Experience is a strategy. It's not about just hiring a magician and a BMX team. That's not what it is at all. It's about putting together a strategy that starts months in advance, that all these little details that add up to this big picture. We will pack the place out if you live by this strategy.
Each night is a totally different night. Like, the performances are different, the tricks you're going to see are different, what Brock does on the stage is entirely different. And then even the message itself is a little different each night, but the purpose is still the same. We're coming to connect with that audience, connect with the people that we have there, and let them know that there's a God that loves them, and that there is a God that actually gave His life so that they could have life.
When I first came in here, I'll be honest with you, and I went, what am I at here? But then I started listening and I thought, oh, they're reaching a different crowd. Yeah. That's what's going on. Some of those that haven't, so I was very impressed. I think that some of these kids are probably not in church, and this is one way to get to them.
What we do best is we get people who wouldn't normally go to church into a building to hear the message. That's what we do best.
Yeah, a lot of people, one of the first questions they're going to ask me is, if 1,000 people make a decision at an event like this, what happens to them? And first and foremost, we try to connect them with a local church. Our number one goal is to share the gospel and to see people's lives get saved. But our number two goal is to connect them with the local church. And so when we actually have a freedom experience, people get connected to the local church, and each of those local churches, usually there's anywhere between 10 and 50 local churches involved in a freedom experience. And those local churches follow up on those decisions that are made. And sometimes they're teenagers, sometimes they're adults, sometimes they're entire families that they're bringing into their churches. And so churches are growing because of the freedom experience.
These are our decision scores from the night, and I don't have a total of these right now, but I mean, this is just from tonight. So we're going to take time to go through these and do follow-up and try to key into different churches and different addresses and all, and try to make sure, that's key, to get in and make sure that we follow up with these kids, because, a lot of times, you lose the kids and they just come to an event and they make a decision and we just let them slide through the cracks. So, it's key. After the event's over, it's not over. There's still a lot of work left to be done.
With the freedom experience, sometimes we get phone calls that say, why are you doing an event to reach people when you could use that money in different ways? And I think when they start to realize that it's more than just an event is what we promote, because an event is what gets the unchurched there. But when we get church people talking about this, we start to share with them the strategy. And we start to share with them the stories that you don't really see on the website and hear in the promotions, because stories like this guy in Kentucky, this youth pastor in Kentucky came and brought his youth group, and there wasn't enough counselors. About 500 people stood up during the invitation and came to accept Christ, and he rushed his kids from his youth group into the back room to do counseling. And he said that after that, it revolutionized their view of sharing the gospel. And he said that since that time, the next year, they led over 100 people to Jesus Christ, all because they got the training and the confidence they needed through the freedom experience.
All youth ministries, youth ministers, this is an incredible tool. There's nothing else like that right now in youth ministry. You're not going to find anything that comes close to this, and we need to be on board with this incredible tool. It's an incredible opportunity to use for reaching lost students.